about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence has ceased to be the promise of the future and has become a key tool in various industries. In this conference, Antony Arul from TCS will show us how AI is designed to adapt and learn from our experiences, enhancing decision-making, automating processes, and offering personalized solutions. Welcome, Anthony. Thank you so much for joining us in BINTEC 2024.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Good to be here. This is my second presentation in BINTEC. Many years back, I spoke about why predictive analytics is very important and how banks can take advantage of it. Now we have come this far where AI has taken over. And we are going to, in this session, we are going to talk about what AI can do, what it cannot do. And I will share some of the experiences that we have learned in the last 2 years since generative AI became very popular, and it also merged with traditional AI and other technology functions. So there are two parts to my presentation. The first one is I'll give some commentary on how we see artificial intelligence, what are some of the challenges, and what our customers see as the potential for AI. And in the second part, I will talk about a 4-step process on how organizations can adopt AI for successful transformation of their businesses. So if you look at the history of industry revolution and trace it back from where we are today, every technology innovation has actually democratized something. So if you look at the 17th century, where water, textiles, iron, and steam, they democratized the access to energy resources. And then came chemicals and cars, which democratized the access to trade. And more recently, I think many of us have been part of it. Mobile phones, internet, it democratized access to communication and access to information. With artificial intelligence, what we think is going to happen is we are going to have democratization of skills. Okay, we need to throw some more light on what we mean by AI itself, because there are varying definitions about what AI is. From our perspective, we think AI means 3 things. Okay, one is the ability to reason out things from large quantities of data. And organizations have done a lot of work in this space even in the past. This is all your regression models, forecasting models, and other things which banks and other organizations have always used to improve their business processes. The second one is what we call as the reasoning models, where you are able to recognize patterns, recognize images, and do things with it. The third one, and the most recent one, is generative AI. Today, everybody talks about generative AI, but from our perspective, AI means it's a combination of all these 3 things. So you need all these 3 things to be able to do something with this technology with respect to your business. And it's not just AI alone. You need other technologies related to data, cloud, and integration within your enterprise systems and other things. We'll look at it later. For AI, these are the 3 things we think defines AI. Now, having said that, what do we mean by democratization of skills with AI? So it is about transforming knowledge work. Who will use AI for their work? Anybody who has to think. This includes role from across the organization. People who do large number of repetitive tasks, maybe a contact center agent who has to handle calls from their customers and answer repetitive questions. Generative AI can actually help improve that process because they are able to get the required context from the knowledge bases that are there and be able to respond to questions faster. Many of the customers are already using it. And the far end of the spectrum is where you have very highly skilled workers. For example, in the banking context, it could be an underwriting agent where they have to make very critical decisions, or it could be a financial analyst who has to look at large quantities of data and be able to make decisions. But there are a lot of struggles in terms of processing all this information and be able to address those core problems. So what AI will do is democratize those tasks where there is repetitive nature and help people to be able to focus on their core tasks. Many of the customers we have spoken to, they have always said that, okay, many of my underwriters are spending a lot of time crunching data. I would rather have them speak to customers and focus on their core work. Those kind of tasks, generative AI is going to help us achieve with the combination of other technologies. So what are our customers saying about this technology? So from TCS, we conducted a study about what customers see with respect to what they think about AI. And an overwhelming 96% of customers said that this technology they are going to look at this technology seriously. And many of them are already doing work in terms of implementing this tech. And a fair 35% of them are already thinking about it, how to use this technology for their core business processes. In terms of what work is actually happening, AI is already changing the way that how people answer, how agents answer questions to their customers. For example, in one of the customers where we did an implementation, the customers are buying travel insurance policies, and they have to, you typically have a lot of questions about your policies. And usually you will have to go through, read pages of documents across these policies and then be able to understand that. Today, all these kind of processes where you have to look at content, summarize them, understand specific aspects of those are already being transformed by AI. So that is some work which our customers are already doing. And in some of the cases, customers are also looking at augmentation systems. So predominantly, these kind of summarization tasks or FAQ tasks, having these kind of smooth conversational systems, building smooth conversational systems for customers as well as customer service representatives, all these things are happening. So what we call this as AI assist systems, where humans perform their tasks and they are assisted by AI tech to be able to do their jobs better and faster. The second layer of progression that we see and hear from our customers is how AI-related workflows can happen. So in this scenario is where the concept of agentic systems come into picture. Any of you who are already working in AI would have already heard about it. So this is about using AI systems to be able to integrate your systems and be able to take actions. So in the first assist part, AI is only providing you information, and humans are still taking the actions. In the augment part, AI is already taking some actions and humans are reviewing it. Predominantly, these are the two areas where most of the customers are doing their work. AI still has tremendous transformation potential, but we think it is more of a long-term goal. Okay. So we have to look at entire business processes and reimagine things in an AI native way. I think that is still a long way, but that will still happen. Okay, it is bound to happen, is what we believe. Now, having said that, talked about the potentials of between assist-based systems, augmenting systems, and transforming systems using AI, what are the challenges that we face? Okay, not everybody feels very comfortable about this tech. Many of our customers have also expressed concerns about how AI adoption can actually help them, particularly in banking organizations, which is highly regulated. Customers have concerns about what kind of regulatory risks are there, what kind of customer-related problems that could happen because of AI doing something it is not supposed to do, unintended use of AI. You just need to do a Google search to look at all kinds of problems that customers have faced with respect to AI. In one of the cases, the bias in data is actually a very important problem that we are all trying to solve. So in one of the cases, when AI was used for mortgage application loan processing, they were able to find that AI is actually is showing bias towards certain people of certain ethnic profiles. It is because of the way the data is coded. So these are some unintended challenges that we have with adoption, and there are still concerns with our customers about how to address them. So we'll have to have a mechanism to address those when we look at the productionizing these things. Now, broadly, looking at all the challenges that we have discussed so far, there are two major things that are very important for our customers. The first thing is whether AI can really deliver value for our business. Because everybody talks about AI, it is a very fancy term today, and everybody wants to experiment with AI, whether we can deliver business value. So how do we derive at this? How do we address this delivering business value problem? There are two things that we must do. The first thing is decide how do we build the right AI solutions, and second is how do you build AI solutions right. Okay, in terms of building the right AI solutions, if you take any industry, there are hundreds of use cases where where AI has a role to play. Because today AI has become ubiquitous, and everybody is researching on this topic. There are use cases right across the value chain of businesses, starting from product definition to product servicing to customer support to finance and human resources. Everybody is looking at it. So what we need is a good prioritization framework in order to building the right solutions. And building AI solutions requires collaboration across multiple teams. In particularly, we are going to have to collaborate a lot more with legal teams. That is what I'm personally also seeing. We spend a lot of times looking at the liabilities and what kind of challenges we may face when we use generative AI type of technologies to be able to generate code or make decisions with respect to business processes. The second thing is on building AI solutions right. Building AI solutions right is a much more challenging problem in my opinion, because first thing is, in order for AI solutions to be effective, it has to be consistent, efficient, and responsible. The consistency part is a very hard problem to solve, because generative AI by nature of their design are expected or stochastic models. So they are expected to hallucinate, and hallucination is part of the design. It is not an accident. The only good thing that is happening in the recent days is that there is a lot more understanding with people that LLMs are going to hallucinate, unlike other technologies. We used to have much bigger problems when we were experimenting in the past to help people understand that, okay, this is the way it works. But at least now there is a lot more understanding, but we have to build systems to be able to handle those hallucinations. The second thing is the efficiency. How do we build efficient systems? The cost of consuming the cost of consuming AI will actually come down. I mean, we are already seeing it in the last 2 years. Things have come down, and it will continue to go down. However, if you just look back on how cloud transformation happened and the promise of cost takeout using cloud, and the real situation today in terms of what customers are looking at, most customers want to look at how to take out cost from the cloud now. Similar things could happen with the AI also. So we have to have a good level of AI ops model to be able to build efficient AI systems. And third one is the responsible AI. So this is everybody's responsibility. Most governments are already publishing regulations on what are the things that your AI-based system should take care of. But we also have to build them imbibe into our systems. So this involves looking at all your data, eliminating the bias from the data, and then building the right controls in terms of the decision-making process itself. And traditional AI and generative AI, we have talked about it. Not all solutions, all problems can be solved only with generative AI. You are going to need traditional AI as well as generative AI and RPA and other technologies to be able to solve real business problems. And the third one is on what is the general perspective on Gen AI models. Gen AI models seem very powerful when you use it at an individual level because they seem to have the entire knowledge of the world. But in order for them to work within the enterprise, we have to contextualize that. So bring the context related to the industry, and then bring the context to your enterprise, and then it has to go down to the specific roles that we are trying to augment or build, assist or augment systems for specific roles. And finally, the design for change. We have a separate section on that. So managing the change with respect to generative AI is another challenge. So this is what are the challenges we need to address for delivering business value? The second one is how do you scale this value? So it is very easy to do proof of concepts today. You can build all these controls to be able to get things into production. But in order to scale it and use the technology as a transformative lever for organizations, it is a number 2 challenge. So we have to look at how people do their roles, because there will be a fundamental shift in how people do their day-to-day jobs, and we will have to manage and we will have to plan for it and manage that change effectively. And then how do you design organizations for change? Because this space is rapidly evolving. So if you look at how things were 1 year back or even 6 months back, it's completely different from what it is today. And maybe 6 months down the line, there could be newer capabilities emerging. And we have to design these systems to be able to handle those changes. Very recently, we read an article about how the OpenAI model is already having reasoning abilities. Okay, I don't personally believe it, but this kind of information keeps coming, developments keep happening, and we have to look at, you have to design organizational change also as part of the challenge addressing. I think that concludes the first part of the session, where our broader commentary on what we see AI, the potential of AI, what are some of the challenges we must address, and then now we will go into the second part of the session, which is how do you create Gen AI path to value. Do we take questions in the end, or do we have a pause? All right. So we have looked at all the challenges and the potential of AI. So at TCS, we think a four-step approach towards adopting AI will help transform businesses. The four steps process is as follows. First one is, how do you accelerate POCs? Traditionally, POCs have happened, proof of concepts on any new technology has happened over a 6 to 8 week period. That is how it usually happens. But with the Gen AI technology, the technology itself is rapidly evolving, and but it provides us the potential to be able to deliver these proof of concepts much faster. So what we need is an ability to do accelerated proof of concepts. The second thing is, how do you prioritize the use cases? There are a lot of use cases that are available for transformation by using this technology. What is the mechanism to prioritize these use cases in the right manner so that we are able to focus on the right problems? Third one is, how do you scale to production? Building proof of concepts and taking prioritizing use cases is one part of the problem, but taking into production is a completely different problem. So we will address that also. And the fourth step is, how do you change organizational culture itself? Okay, so first one is organizations should focus on idea discovery on engineering. So what it means is we need to provide an enterprise playground for people on playing around with this tech, because we cannot be highly restrictive about it, because the technology is emerging very fast, and we have to quickly try out these technologies and then be able to see whether they are actually working or not for our business problems. So broadly, what we have done is we have built a platform called Wisdom Next to be able to help with this setting up this enterprise playground for our customers. So broadly, there are three user personalities that will use this platform. The first is from a technology user point of view. How do you use the AI workbench to be able to evaluate different types of tools that are available in the market and be able to take measurements in terms of how they are actually supporting solving your problems, in terms of how much it is costing you, and whether it is able to integrate with your other parts of the organization and be able to solve problems for you. And of course, you will also have the business user perspective, where you have business users from different business functions modeling templates for their respective roles. An underwriter might be looking at all the processes within the day of an underwriter and then be able to model those scenarios within the playground, and then work with the technology teams to be able to create those scenarios and then see how we are able to solve those problems using AI, using generative AI and other technologies. And of course, having the LLM operations. How do you actually operationalize these things and put it into production? How this is going to work? So all these kind of things we have integrated in the form of a platform, which is called Wisdom Next. And whether it is Wisdom Next or some other platform, most customers are feeling the need for an enterprise platform, AI playground platform. You can take a look at the Wisdom Next platform as part of our booth, which is set up here, which will give you a perspective of how you can play around with this tech. The second one is picking the right use case for production scaling. This is where we look at different personas. I need to take some time to explain this concept here a bit more. So typically, if you look at an organization, so we talked about how AI and Gen AI is going to help you democratize skills in terms of what people do in their day-to-day work. So what we are talking about is how do you identify all the players in the ecosystem? So this involves your customers, your employees, your systems, and your partners. And then for each step in the process, you look at all the interactions between these entities, and then you categorize them. Okay, what are the human-to-human interfaces? What are the human-to-system interfaces? System-to-human interfaces, and then human system-to-system interfaces. So when you look at these kind of interfaces, system to system interfaces are typically data exchange. So probably you are not going to do much there. Similarly, human to human interfaces are highly specific in nature, and probably it will take a longer time for any tech to actually change that. It involves tacit knowledge. So probably that also we probably should leave out. So that leaves us with the human to system and the system to human interactions. And that is where we think a lot of action will happen with respect to the adoption of tech, AI tech. So when you look at system to human interactions, it is all about how you engage with the systems to get information. So this could involve a contact center agent talking to the system to understand the profile of the customer, what kind of transactions they have done, and how best to answer their queries. Or in the other side, from system to human, it could involve EKYC, know your customer process, where you have different forms submitted by the customer, and the human has to validate it and enter it back into the system and be able to do that. Those kind of scenarios, you look at all the steps in the process and see what kind of activity is performed in the process. So there could be, and those become our hotspots. So these hotspots could be any of the capabilities that can be provided by generative AI or predictive AI or any other tech. So including search problems, classify problems, aggregation problems, or summarizing problems, orchestration problems, and so on. So then we will have the evaluation of the hotspots. So evaluating hotspots requires a very structured approach. So typically what we do is we look at a quadrant-based analysis by taking measurements on the business complexity, the business benefit of solving such a problem, and the technology complexity related with actually implementing it from a technical standpoint. And then we look at, and then we score it. We actually have to work with the stakeholders to be able to do those scoring, and then create a score on how you actually solve it, how you actually sorry. Yeah. So look at the role of LLMs and be able to actually solve it. And then you classify them through a quadrant, into a quadrant chart. So basically, I will, give me a moment. Yeah, so this is the way that we prioritize the use cases. So you look at different use cases and plot them based on the business importance and the technical complexity, and then plot it into a quadrant. And then you have, this is the way the quadrant chart works. So you have the do it now, where the use cases with the high business value and the low technical complexity, you do it now. And then the ones with the low business impact and high tech feasibility, you experiment with the LLMs. And then you have and then you do plan and strategize the high business impact and the low tech feasibility, and then reevaluate the ones with the low business impact and the low tech feasibility. So that is a structure that we are currently using in order to help our customers in prioritizing these initiatives. In terms of how the prioritization itself works, so we need to look at, it's a fairly complicated process. Okay, so you look at the entire value chain from customer acquisition to customer onboarding, customer servicing, support functions, and everything. And then you have systems on both ends of the spectrum. So you have different employee roles, and then you have different types of systems that are there. And then you collect the different types of AI interventions across the use cases. And then you figure out what kind of technology you need to use between AI, ML, Gen AI, and RPA. And then you do the prioritization matrix. So that is the way the use case prioritization matrix works. The third one is how do you, once you have experimented, you have made decisions on what are your core LLM technologies that you want to use, what kind of vector DBs you are going to use, and how are you going to manage your LLM operations and AI operations. Now we have to look at how do we scale to deliver value, and how do you actually build in the engineering muscle to be able to deliver these initiatives. There are some key questions that we need to address. I think we have discussed them as part of the challenges. This is about how do you resolve the bias in the data. So how do you look at the bias in the data and how do you resolve them? Secondly, how do you handle the data privacy and the data PII? Sorry. I'm not getting the expansion for the PII. It is personally identifiable information of customers. And then how do you ensure that you're not violating any regulations? And how do you ensure there are no hallucinations with respect to the LLMs? So I want to run a case study of how we have done it, specific to AI for SDLC. So far, we talked about a lot of use cases and on the business side. But if you look at where work is happening today, it is more on the AI for SDLC. And how do you use Gen AI for code generation and how you can improve the productivity of your programmers within the organization. So we have conducted a lot of experiments, and what we are seeing is that the highest adoption of Gen AI in SDLC is on developer productivity, in application development, particularly on the build and test side of things. So what we have also observed is that while individual productivity has shown up to 50%, but when you look at as a team, as an IT organization, the actual productivity we see on the field is about 15 to 20%. That is mainly because there is a lot of disconnect between how information flows right from between the product owners to the designers, to the developers, to the testers, and the people who actually integrate and move things into production. So those are some of the problems that we need to solve as we go along. And similarly, human intervention, like any AI system, human intervention is non-negotiable. So you have to look at the quality of the code generated. You have to address problems related to plagiarism and other kinds of challenges, and And of course, you have to work with the legal teams in terms of who has the liability if there are any lawsuits and other things. Many of the hyperscalers are already providing the required liability benefits for using some of their tools, but that is still a concern that we have to address. So there are three major architectural considerations that we have. The first is how do you build an agentic system which covers all your stakeholders, and you're able to let information flow across these things using multiple agents. The second thing is how do you create a knowledge fabric for the enterprise? So this includes all your organizational policies. What kind of coding standards and the guidelines that you have, and all kinds of knowledge assets that are within the organization, and then be able to bring them together for the LLMs to consume, and then be able to make enterprise-specific decisions. This is about bringing the enterprise context into the picture. And thirdly, how do you integrate with all your existing tools within the organization itself? So these are all the important architectural considerations that we have to do. And this is our recommended architectural approach on how an AI-enabled system might work in actual production. So what you see in this picture is in the bottom layer, you see all the tools, all the already existing available tools within your enterprise. And then you have the foundational model with respect to your organizational context. So you build your own context by putting together all the information within your enterprise, and then build the knowledge fabric. And then you connect it with your Gen AI tooling. From there, you use prompting, RAG, or fine-tuning kind of approaches to be able to for consuming this information and get things done by the different players in the top, right from how do you curate user stories to how do you do the development, how do you do the testing and integration, and so on. This is the broader architectural approach. You could take this and then use it for other business processes as well. So broadly, these are all the different layers that are going to be there in terms of the implementation itself. And these are some of the examples of what we saw is SDLC, which is a summary of what we have done for a lot of customers. And we are also starting to do work with some customers on the business process side. So many of the initiatives are related to how do you do summarization, how do you handle FAQ type of questions, how do you handle documents and be able to process them using Gen AI and integrate them into business processes and so on. These are some of the case studies that we have done. So in order to productionize, in order to scale in production and be able to run multiple AI projects into production, you have to look at various aspects. What you need is a broader AI framework in order to execute these things. The first one is defining the guiding principles for AI adoption. Okay, what is the approach that you will take? What is your position with respect to your customers? What is your position with respect to your business? What is your position with respect to use of ethical AI, responsible AI, and so on? And then you build the foundational elements about AI definitions, AI literacy, and the knowledge management, and those kind of aspects. How do you build a common understanding of AI itself within your larger organization? And then how are you able to share knowledge within the organization with respect to the AI tech itself? And then, of course, risk management is a very important topic which has to be identified, and we have to agree on how risk will be managed with respect to AI adoption. Second is the use case prioritization. I think we have spoken enough about that. And third is the technology selection. How do you select the right tech for your use? What combination of technologies that you're going to use? And what are the technology reference patterns? So here, reference patterns, I mean, are you going to use prompt engineering as your primary vehicle for initial AI adoption, and how you will infuse RAG type of approach into it? Are you going to use fine-tuning approach to be able to do more with respect to Gen AI and those kind of things? And then how do you manage the life cycle? How do you manage the life cycle itself for AI adoption? And on top of it, you need the required governance structures, and then the organizational change management. So this is our view of how the AI framework will look if you have to really scale out into production and do things at an enterprise level. So the fourth and the final part is about change management. So what we have shown so far is how do you play around with this tech? How do you identify the use cases, move the use cases into production and do it at scale? But all these things will fail unless we are able to manage the change. I think if there is number one problem for AI adoption, that is change management. The reason for that is how humans interact with the AI-based systems versus traditional IT systems. These AI-based systems are always, the interaction between human and AI systems are always in a constant state of flux, because AI systems are continuously learning, and the responses, what you get in one time may not be the same when you get in the other time. So that flux has to be understood and managed properly. So that is one of the key aspects. So we have to build, when we build the AI systems, we have to keep this in mind. And then secondly, the rate in which organizations change with respect to technology has traditionally been slower than the pace in which the technology itself changes. We have seen that in the prior waves of technology, including the adoption of mobile phones or the internet for enterprise use. The same thing will happen for AI as well, but the impact will be much larger, because if you look at today's enterprise, how much what organizations use AI, it's only probably 1% of the organization, because there are highly specialized people who have that required data science expertise, and it is happening in very small pockets in the organization. But in an AI first world, what will happen is everybody will be using AI. So from 1% of your staff using AI, you've got almost 99 to 100% of your staff are going to use AI for doing their work. In which case, organizations really have to plan for changing the roles of the employees in terms of what kind of skills they have. This problem is faced not only by our customers, we ourselves as TCS face this problem. So we are also having a very large workforce, and we have to completely relook at relook at the skills of our own associates, and we have to create certain programs for actually helping them come up to speed with respect to the new tech. So almost everyone will become an AI practitioner. Everyone will be using AI to do their day-to-day job, and therefore that requires a new kind of mindset in order to train the people and enable the change. So having said all that, this is the target state where we think will look like in an AI in an organization transformed by AI. These are all the different kinds of change management entities that will be there. So you will have certain entities at a bottommost level, looking at project-specific initiatives, looking at the AI ops and the ML ops and so on. And then you will have the AI tech and innovation COE in order to keep a track on the technology itself, and build that center of excellence on the AI capabilities. And then the governance and oversight aspects in order to look at the different types of regulatory risk and so on. And finally, the executive steering committee and the AI office. It has a little bit of a old school feel to it, but this is a topic that we are also still working on. Okay, so we are also thinking about what different ways or different techniques that could be applied with respect to managing change itself. To begin with, we are looking at how do we train our people, how do we make everybody in the organization have that basic knowledge of AI, that they are able to play around with these AI tools, have some common understanding of the vocabulary related to AI, and the guidelines related to what is the right thing to do and what is not the right thing to do. I think those are broadly the areas that we are working on. That concludes the second part of the presentation. In summary, what we have seen is these are our core findings. Okay, so we have executed 400 odd projects for our customers. Pretty much most of the projects are working in the assist and in the assist kind of scenarios where humans are still doing their job and AI is only playing an assistance type of role. 90% of the other projects are stuck because of business risk and other kinds of challenges. The second one is business value comes not just from AI. Okay, so we have to look at how do we use other technologies, including predictive AI, robotic process automation, integration with the data, cloud, and those kind of areas. Thirdly, coding assistance and AI playground and customer employee assist. These are the kind of use cases where there is maximum traction or maximum work is happening. And LLM capability differences are shrinking. So day by day, the technology is emerging, newer features are coming up. And each of these features are being published by the different competitors in the industry as well. The capability difference is shrinking, so we have to look at the broader perspective on that. And how do we look at the AI native business value chains and ways of working? This is on the change management and reimagining the broader business process itself. So this is the summary of how we are approaching Gen AI. Thank you for your time and thank you for being here. And I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Antony, thank you very much for your time and all that interesting information you shared with us. We have some questions from the people who are connected online, but first I want to know if maybe here someone has a question. So we can go to the questions we have online. What is the current state of Gen AI models being deployed locally on users' devices? And are there any notable use cases?
Gen AI models, say again the question, please.
What is the current state of Gen AI models being deployed locally on users' devices? And are there any notable use cases?
Right now, individual use cases, people are using use cases on an individual basis. For example, I use Gen AI for a lot of my brainstorming related activities or looking at YouTube videos and summarizing content for me. Those kind of use cases we are doing on an individual basis. But at an organizational level, I don't think anybody is using local LLMs being deployed in their own phones and doing things. I think it will happen. It's only a matter of time. Right now, it is not.
Okay. How to reduce the risk of using Gen AI models in client-facing applications?
What is the risk?
How to reduce the risk of using Gen AI models in client-facing applications?
Okay, I think that is a very broad question because client-facing applications could mean a lot of things. For example, when you expose your FAQ to the customers and use some kind of a Gen AI-enabled agent to be able to do FAQs from that, I think that is a okay type of application which customers are already doing it. But if you look at deciding on a loan application for a customer and then using AI models to predict the outcome of the loan, I think that is an area where that seems to be a lot of problems that are coming up because of the bias in the data and other things. First thing is, specifically, it is not completely impossible. I think it is possible to do it. We just have to be wary of the risks involved, particularly on bias in the data that you're using to train the models and how you're exposing your customer information with respect to that. And sometimes there are also unintended consequences. You build things with the right intent, but it takes a different it takes a different turn of its own. And those kind of risks that we have to try to avoid. I mean, you cannot completely avoid the unintended risk, but that is something you have to be wary of. You have to be aware of it, that this could happen, and be continuously monitor it so that we are able to respond to it in an agile manner.
Okay, thank you. And the last question is, you think there is a plateau in the Gen AI use cases and innovation?
Yeah, I think if you count the number of use cases that we have, I think it is a plateau, but I definitely think new use cases will emerge because day by day we are finding newer uses for Gen AI. So the way we have approached it is we have looked at the industry value chain, okay, right from how you define customer products, how do you sell them to customers, how do you service them. So we looked at all the value chain and looked at all the use cases. So from that perspective, it looks like a complete job. Okay, I don't think we are going to have more use cases. But then, as newer capabilities are emerging, I think there may be completely new ideas. For example, you have a contact center, and you use Gen AI to be able to bring about efficiencies in terms of the average handling time of customers. But in the future, you could, but still, contact centers are still cost centers. But in the future, you could think of scenarios where you could convert your contact center into a profit center, where AI could enable your agents to be able to engage with customers and sell new products and those kind of things. Those kind of new scenarios could emerge. But today we have, if you look at the value chain, we have the fairly large number of use cases which we have to solve first. But newer use cases could emerge. I think it will happen.
Okay, Anthony, thank you again for being part of BeanTech 2024. Hopefully, we'll see you next year again for the next.
Thank you very much. Thanks for everyone.